What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Kevin with Optimized Essentials, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to really fix your overpronation, collapsed arches, or flat feet. Now I say fix in quotation because depending on where you are at your stage in your life and how diligent and effective you are at applying this information will determine the type of results you will see. A lot of the resources, if you're like me who did research online, is specifically targeted at the foot, either doing certain foot exercises, having orthotics, or doing surgery. And through trying all this, you'll notice a lot of this is either very temporary or ineffective at the most. A lot of people, I believe, have a misconstrued understanding of how flat feet, collapsed arches, and overpronation comes to be. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you the truth, all right? All 5 things that you need to know in terms of fixing quotation. You'll soon see why this issue, this syndrome, so to say, all right? So I'm going to be covering briefly what it is, the causes of it, the dangers of it, the truth behind it, and finally the fix, so to say, to kind of remedy your problem. All right, so let's get right into it. And some of these details, some of these information that I'm going to be sharing with you are going to be quite detailed, quite informative, and quite dense. So I'm going to do kind of the technical version of it, and then I'm going to break it down and summarize it for those of you who don't understand the anatomy and the mechanics behind how things work. All right, I also included 2 links down below in the description if you're someone who really wants to get into the meat of it and digest it and understand it for yourself, because these 2 articles that I have found are pretty much the cream of the crop. They summarize and kind of give to you the best foundation understanding of how the foot actually works, and then I'll combine this on top of my own knowledge, my own experience as a personal trainer, and in trying to fix overpronation myself. All right, so what is it? What is overpronation? If you don't already know, which I doubt, because if you're looking at this video or finding it already, chances are you've already researched and saw other videos on it. But this video, I promise you, is going to be the video that will resolve it all once and for all. All right, so overpronation is basically, let's say this is your foot and this is the ground. In a normal healthy arch, right, or in a normal healthy foot, the arch is raised. But in overpronation, your foot is collapsed more. That's why it's called collapsed arch or flat foot, because over time, if you don't work on it or don't fix it, your foot basically just flattens out. The muscles in your foot are just weak as hell, and you basically have a collapsed, flattened foot. So each time you walk, you're basically slamming into the ground and causing a lot of different issues. In a healthy foot, basically what happens is when you land, you rock on the edges a little bit, and then you pronate, and then you push off. So it's like a rocking motion and you're pushing off. But when your foot is weak, or when the structure of your foot is underdeveloped or developed incorrectly, what happens is you land, and then when you pronate, you excessively pronate, and then you push off. Or you don't even roll on the outer edges and you just keep landing and pushing, staying in overpronation too much. In the article, one of the articles that I shared, which is the very dense one, the very hard to understand, he shows very different research on the amount of pronation that is healthy, or the amount that is basically drawn. The line, where is the line drawn where it's overpronation and there's too much going on? Because pronation is necessary, it's required, and it's healthy. It's when you have overpronation that's an issue. Same with anterior pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic tilt. To some degree, all of those are necessary, but to which degree does it start to cause problems? And we're going to be addressing that in today's video. All right, so to get more technical with what I just shared in terms of what it is and what the mechanics are, I'm going to read to you something that kind of illustrates how it works, all right? So in a perfect walking stride, the arch elevator muscles, which are your tibialis anterior, your peroneus longus, and tibialis posterior, work in perfect harmony with the plantar flexors, which are the gastrocnemius, the soleus, etc., to absorb, distribute, and release stored kinetic energy. On heel strike, the arch elevators must fire eccentrically to decelerate and dissipate ground reaction forces via foot pronation and tibial internal rotation. As the foot transitions from mid-stance into push-off, the toes begin to dorsiflex, causing activation of the plantar fascia and associated muscles. With our feet acting as springs, absorbing and transferring the forces of gravity, it is a remarkably efficient system. Yet, when gait is altered from wearing cushioned footwear such as tennis shoes, the dynamic of the menagerie of muscles and bundle of bones which we rely upon changes. All right? So we kind of went over what the mechanics are and spilled over into the causes, right? What I believe is the issue, what I believe a lot of these issues stems from is excessive footwear, right? The root cause of most of our issues is excessive footwear, and especially at a young age. So let me go further in depth, all right? Studies the causes, right? Studies find that children who wear footwear at an early age experience a greater incidence of flat-footedness and plantar fasciitis later in life. As the plantar tendon becomes reliant on supported shoes, it indelibly loses strength, causing children's ankle and knees to twist in unnatural ways to compensate. It should come as no surprise that knee surgery is often the most common orthopedic operation, that arthritis levels in the developed world, keyword developed world, where shoes and inactivity reign supreme, are at records high. In fact, it's estimated that more than 1 million Americans are having joint replacement surgery every year, including 720,000 knees and 330,000 hips. Our protective shoes, with all of their arch support, may actually be the root cause for why a ballooning proportion of Americans suffer from flattened arches and plantar fasciitis. Guys, that is super powerful. Now, that isn't in any of the articles that I sent down below. It's actually part of a Facebook group that I was looking at, or that I'm part of, and it is Eric Dalton's techniques group. If you don't know who Eric Dalton is, he is the founder of Myoskeletal Therapy, which is basically a manual therapy. It's a form of massage therapy, and I'm part of that group because I have one of his courses and I'm working towards becoming a master myoskeletal therapist. I want to fix people's bodies because a lot of these issues stem from ignorance of posture, proper posture, how to optimize your posture, which is why I'm in this field. You know, a lot of these issues that I'm talking to you about, I've personally experienced and I'm still working through myself. And in doing this, I want to improve my knowledge and give you guys the best knowledge. So I decided to become, yes, a personal trainer, but to specialize in corrective exercise and myoskeletal therapy so that I can fix people's bodies through my hands, all right? So to go a little bit more in detail, because I don't want this to be a very short fast food educational video. If you're watching this long already, then you're someone who values education. You want to fix your problem, and I want to give you the best information. So there's going to be more things that I want to discuss in terms of the causes, right? So basically what I just shared in terms of excessive footwear and wearing it at a young age causing flat-footedness, overpronation, flattened arches, collapsed arches. There's more, right? I think they shared similar resources, but in one of the articles that I shared with you, they discuss something similar, and I think that's where Eric Dalton was drawing upon this, all right? So in a study of 2,300 children aged 4 to 13 years old and raised in rural India, Rao and Joseph used static footprints to evaluate the influence of footwear on medial arch development. They discovered that children raised without shoes really presented with low arches. By age 13, only 2.8% of the barefoot children had flat feet, compared with the 8.6% prevalence of flat feet in the children wearing shoes. That is so powerful, guys. Do you guys understand what is going on? There's more causes to why you have flat feet, but my theory, I don't remember if I came up with this theory before I read this information or after I read this information, because I was doing a ton of research on it. But at the end of the day, if you understand, okay, overpronation is basically when your foot is stuck in that pronated position, or the muscles around your foot isn't allowing that elevation. So each time you're hitting the ground, you're not doing the rocking and pushing off. which was the mechanics it discovered. What is going on is you're slamming into the ground. And the reason for this is because the muscles, the intrinsic muscles of the foot and above, haven't really been worked out properly because we always wear our shoes and we sit too much at a very young age. So if you're giving a kid shoes and you're telling him to sit at a desk all day, pretty much you have messed up the rest of his life, because the whole system from toe all the way up to your head is one fascial system that's connected. And the exercises that I'm going to be sharing with you later is going to teach you how to integrate it and wake them all back up. But basically, when you have footwear at a very young age, the arches don't get a time, the arches, intrinsic muscles of the foot don't get the time to actually strengthen and raise. And by the age 6 or 8 or whatever it was that they discussed here, that is when the arches are supposed to be fully formed. But if you've been casting your foot the whole time, wearing your arm in a cast or wearing your foot in a cast, that basically shuts down the whole process of your foot developing properly. So now you have supposedly flat foot because your foot has been flattened the whole time at a very young age. So if you have flat feet because you wore shoes at a very young age when your foot was naturally flat and weak, then it's going to stay that way because it was never given the time to fully grow and develop. I hope you guys are seeing and understanding that, all right? And then on top of that, throughout life is more causes is being overweight or being excessively sedentary. When you're overweight and you're sedentary, you're basically jamming your tibia, your femur, and basically all the weight. Imagine this is your foot and this is the bones above it. You're basically jamming the weight down onto your foot and then flattening out your feet. And then more causes are having weak core, weak glutes. When your glutes and your core isn't working, you're gonna have pelvic instability, you're gonna have tight hip flexors, and when your hip flexors are tight, your leg, your femur medially rotates. Medial rotation is basically towards the midline. Medial rotation, all right, towards the midline. So when your feet internally rotate and you have knock knees, then you're more likely to have overpronated feet, hyperpronation, collapsed arches, so on and so forth. And then also on top of this, most of us have dysfunctional slings, all right? So the sling system is comprised of your anterior and posterior oblique slings, and there's more slings as well, that the longitudinal sling systems. There's a lot of different slings in your body. But basically when you're walking, it allows your body to rotate and work in conjunction as a sling. Think of it slinging back and forth. So when your core is weak, when your intrinsic foot muscles are weak, and your sling system isn't working, then your feet are going to be flat. They're going to be overpronated. They're going to be collapsed. And the people who only focus on working on the feet, i.e. doing foot exercises and wearing orthotics or doing surgery, are missing out on the whole picture. They're pretty much zooming in just on the foot itself, and they're not getting the full benefit or the full integrated approach. And I want to dispel all of that and give to you the real hard, solid truth today. But before I do that, I wanted to explain a little bit more in terms of the dangers behind having flat foot. I want to scare you a little bit so that you actually implement and make an active effort to fixing your condition, because there's a lot of dangers associated with having flat feet, having overpronation, having collapsed arches, all right? So let's read the part of the article again, okay? Here we go. So, in a follow-up study, these authors determined that arch height was also predictive of injury. Low arched runners exhibited more knee, soft tissue, and medial injuries, e.g. adductor strain, medial knee and ankle injuries, and sesamoid/first metatarsal phalangeal joint injury, while high arch runners had a greater prevalence of bony injuries, e.g. stress fractures, and lateral injuries, e.g. greater trochanter bursitis, iliotibial band friction syndrome, and or lateral ankle sprains, all right? So they kind of discussed both instances, but in our case where we have overpronation, basically when your foot pronates, you're more susceptible to having ankle injuries because the ankle and the foot, the muscles in the foot, or the ankle joint and the metatarsals, the foot structure itself, when it's pronated, it's technically slipped down a little bit. So over time, that's going to create a lot of wear and tear on your ankle. And then when your ankle pronates and goes in, it moves up the connection into your knees. When I first experienced this, I felt discomfort in the medial knee, which is the inside portion of your knee. And then that'll run up to your hips and cause issues up the hips, in the lower back, in the upper back, into the neck, into the shoulders, and it pretty much just ruins the whole connect chain because the foot is part of the foundation of a strong, stable body. So these are some dangers that you really want to pay attention to, because if you don't fix your feet, you're going to have knee pain, hip pain, lower back pain, and pain all over your body pretty much for the rest of your life, all right? And then let's go into what the truth is. What is the truth behind this? Can you actually fix your overpronation, your collapsed arches, your flat feet? And the answer, in my experience, in my opinion, is to an extent. You can't exactly fix it 100%. What you can do is you can maintain it, all right? Because of this. All of the reasons I shared with you before. If you're depending on where you are at your stage in your life, if you're someone who's in their 20s or in their 30s and 40s and so on, the longer you've had flat feet, and the longer you've had collapsed arches and overpronation, and if you already have like bunions and hammer toes and all this developed, it's not that you can't fix it. Don't get me wrong. What you can do is you can optimize it. You can maximize what you have, maximize your foot structure through the exercises and knowledge I'm sharing with you today. Because if you think about it, let me read to you right here, right? This will nail down a lot. Will preface what I'm about to share with you. It's going to be a bit technical, but I'll explain it. So according to Gold et al., formation of a healthy medial longitudinal arch, your arches, requires the formation of a well-developed sustentaculum tali, a healthy tibialis posterior tendon, an adequate deltoid ligament, a non-constricted Achilles tendon, and a properly placed inferior calcaneo navicular ligament. These authors note that the development of arch is not complete until the age of 8 years, and then that hyperpronation, often secondary to genu valgum, is the norm for 5-year-old children. So if you have no idea what the hell they were just saying, basically what they were trying to say, or what they did say, was that in order for you to have a healthy arch, all those different factors, your tendon, right? Your tibialis posterior tendon, the sustentaculum tali, these muscles, these bones, these ligaments around your foot, they had to have formed healthily. So if you're someone who wore shoes or had this issue at a very young age and believed that it was genetic, or believed that there was something that ran hereditary through your family line and you have flat feet, because of that, if you believe that, or even if you don't believe that, and because that was the case because you wore shoes at such a young age, the development of your foot structure, the development of the ligaments, the bones, the intrinsic muscles of your foot, they aren't there anymore because they haven't developed in a way. You get what I'm saying? It's like, that's why people get surgery in orthotics, because the structure of the foot just isn't there. But to do surgery is very extreme, and there's still ways to wake it up and potentially milk and maximize what you have. So they said about age 8. So at 6 or 8, it was about the age group that I found where your arch is supposed to form. But if you casted it at that young age, then most likely your foot is stuck in that position. But in my experience, what I've learned through corrective exercise and doing what I'm sharing with you is it can be maintained. You can raise your arches to the maximum degree, but the key here is you have to maintain it. You have to keep on maintaining it. You have to keep on doing work on it. I noticed that my arches are the most raised after I've done a leg day, right? When I'm working actively, engaging my foot muscles, I'm doing my glutes, I'm working out my core, I'm doing heavy deadlifts, all these pull my fascia and kind of really like tighten up my sling system so that everything is balanced and everything is perfect. But if I don't work out for a few days, or I don't do these exercises, what happens is my feet pronate back to its normal cause. And a lot of people might get discouraged. A lot of people might be like, oh, we can't, losing hope. But think about it this way. Maintenance is everything in life. In order for you to be healthy, in order to be fit, in order for you to have supreme optimum health, you need to regularly maintain it by what? Eating healthy, taking good care of yourself, having good hygiene, right? Showering regularly, pooping regularly, eating good food regularly, and doing exercises regularly. So this is something you just have to maintain. And if you don't work your foot muscles out, or if you don't work your sling system, your fascia system out, then your feet are just gonna be collapsed. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So I hope all that makes sense, guys. I pretty much shared with you the absolute core foundation essentials, basically everything you need to know in order to fix your problem. I haven't really given you the exercises, but that's what we're gonna do next in this video, so stay tuned. I'm gonna jump over to a different camera angle so that you can really understand how to fix your overpronation, collapsed arches, and flat feet. So let's get right into the exercises. Let's go. So the long-awaited exercises on how to fix your overpronation. So I'm gonna quickly go over the methodology, the strategy, and what we're gonna attack. So the very first thing we wanna focus on, yes, is the foot itself, but we also wanna start to integrate it. So we're gonna attack the foot, we're gonna release some of the fascia, strengthen some of the muscles, and then we're gonna activate our core and our glutes so that we can teach our body what it feels like to have our feet and our muscles in our foot to wake up, and how to link it to an active core and glute. And then we're going to integrate it even more into our sling system, all right? So without further ado, let's get right into it. If you don't have a lacrosse ball already, make sure you get one. A tennis ball could potentially work, maybe even a baseball, but the lacrosse ball is going to be good for all-around myofascial release, all right? So what you want to do with the tennis ball before you release your foot is you want to be able to spread out your feet like this, all right? If you can't move your toes in this way, then you want to work on moving your toes in that way by either taking your fingers and slipping them in between your toes, or getting some of these devices online where you can kind of space out your feet, and then you want to just do some curls like that, all right? That's how you kind of spread out and open up the fascia on the bottom of your foot. And with your toes spread out, you're going to step on it, and then you're going to keep your feet webbed out, and then you're just going to roll into that fascia, all right? Whichever point you're feeling the most tenderness, I want you to step into it and then just breathe. And as the pain starts to dissipate through repeated repetitions, through many days of doing this or many months of doing this, the pain will substantially decrease, and then you'll also feel more space and more fluidity in your feet, all right? So as you're pressing down, holding the position, rolling it out, and really getting into those kinks, you want to make sure you're wiggling your toes, you're crunching your toes, moving them in different directions until you can really open up all the space. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to promote movement in the foot, in your feet, in your toes, while simultaneously ironing out any sticky knots in your feet so that your fascia can be free and fluid. So once you've cleared up all the knots, all the adhesions, what you want to do now is you want to wake up your feet. You want to teach the muscles in your feet how to activate. So you do this by pressing down on the toes, which I'm sure many of you guys have seen different ways to lift up your arches, activate your feet. You basically want to move and engage the feet, the toes. You want to move the muscles in your big toe and then in the other toe. So you just want to wiggle around like that, and then you have to do some contractions. So instead of lifting the towel off the ground, you could do that too. What I just personally do is I crunch my toes together and then I relax. Crunch, relax, crunch, relax. 15 times, and then depending on how good it feels for you or how tired your feet are, you could do 1 round of each of those, or you can do 3 rounds, all of them repetitively. But know this, the more repetitions you put in for your feet, the faster and quicker you'll develop the neurological connection so that you can wake your toes and your feet and your fascia and your intrinsic foot muscles up faster, right? So once you've activated those, let's start to slowly progress into strengthening it, all right? What you can do are heel raises. This is gonna help engage and activate and use the foot. So what I like to do is I like to lift my heels up off the ground. So these are heel raises, and then I twist. So that extra twist is what will allow that arch to engage. To know whether or not your foot is actually that flat, lift it up and take a look at it. If you have a round edge there, then chances are you can still develop your arch. And even if you had flat feet, you can still develop your arch. It's just gonna be a little bit harder because the structure of your foot is already flat. But what you can do is you do a heel raise and then twist your feet out to engage those arches. So go back down, twist, engage. Again, do about 15 of those. 3 rounds if you're feeling really good about yourself. And then once you've activated your foot and feet muscles, you want to activate your glutes, or your core and your glutes. These 2 muscles are going to help stabilize your pelvis so that you can lift some of that pressure off of your feet. I'm going to have a separate video that will explain to you how to hit your glutes and your core at the same time so that you can activate the trunk, all right? So I'm not gonna share that here, but I'm probably gonna post a video or a picture of how to do it in the video right here, and then have you go into a separate video to look at it, all right? So now let's go into how to integrate it with the sling. So after you've waken up your foot, woken up your core and your glutes, how do you integrate this into your movement? So the very first exercise I wanna share with you is to, actually one more thing for the feet, is how you can engage the foot muscles, how you can lift those arches up off the ground. So a lot of you have probably seen the videos of how you can lift your arch. So if your foot is pronated down like that, so if it pronates down, all you have to do is just lift the arch up, right? Yes, but to an extent, because you have to integrate it with your body. So what I like to do is get against the wall and learn how to twist your foot up, okay? So if you haven't figured it out already, what you do is you basically, so imagine this your foot, you're trying to twist. So if your foot is pronated, so it's gonna collapse in like that. So what I'm doing with my foot is I'm trying to twist it. Imagine there's a jar and you're trying to grab onto it with your foot and you're trying to twist it out. As you twist it up, look what happens to the arch. You engage the intrinsic muscles of your foot and then you externally rotate your femur a little bit, right? So the idea behind this is to screw the ground and twist it without lifting up your foot. You're basically planting it here and then twisting without lifting up. So now there's a nice healthy arch here. So what we want to do to progress that even more is, as we're twisting this into the ground, we're going to take our opposite knee and we're going to push against the wall with our foot. So we're trying to wham it like this, all right? Trying to twist it against the wall. You can't move the wall, so what ends up happening is you raise your arch even more. Now this is a physical therapy exercise, but I decided to progress it even more because I'm awesome like that. We want to integrate your core and your sling system by doing some rotation. So what I've learned is, as I'm twisting and I'm banging against the wall, now my glute is engaged, nice and tight, my core is engaged. Now we're going to add some rotation, all right? So I want you to pretend like you're running in place. So just run like this and you'll instantly feel this glute activating, you'll feel this glute activating, and you'll teach your body's sling system how to move. Oh, the lights are off, whatever. So you're just gonna run in place like this for about 30 seconds or until you get really fatigued, and now you're teaching your body literally how to activate its sling system because your arches are raised, your arches are now raised, and then you're strengthening that position and you're teaching your body how to integrate it. That's the key, guys. That is the key. And because I'm so nice, I'm gonna give you one more exercise on how to integrate this the most, right? So sling systems, again, number one, all right? So here we go. To do this exercise, you do a back lunge, so you reach back, and then you always twist to the side with the knees. So now you're engaging rotation and you're maintaining the foot to go above its, hopefully you guys can see this. You're keeping your arches raised, and then when you come up, you're gonna twist to the side of your knee, similar to what we were doing here. You're gonna rotate to the side of the leg that's up, and you're keeping that foot up off the ground, the arch raised. So you're going down, you're rotating here, and then you're coming up. Inhaling, going down, rotating up. You wanna make sure when you're doing this, you're engaging your glutes, your heels, keeping them on the ground and lifting the arches up off the ground and then twisting. So inhale, twist to this side, and exhale. I might show a different angle in case that doesn't look good. The side view. The side view of how to raise your arches. So what you want to do is you want to get up against the wall and you want to pay attention to your feet, all right? So if your foot is collapsed like that from the beginning, you want to actively screw it into the ground. And if you don't know how to do that, what you can do is you can raise your knee up, smash it against the wall, and you're pushing this way with this foot, and then as you're pushing this way, your foot, this leg is going to be forced to externally rotate. So what you do is you twist it in the ground, pinch your butt cheeks together, and really feel what it feels like to have your arches raised. And in this position, that's where you want to integrate the rowing or the twisting. This is how you activate your slings. So remember, collapsed arch, raise them up, smash it against the wall, rotate to the wall, and really engage the arch and the glutes at the same time. And then afterwards, to integrate it and advance it even more, is the back lunge with the twist. So when you go down, you want to make sure the arches are raised, feeling it in your glutes, twisting to the side with the leg in front. Always twist to the side with the leg in the front, the knee in the front, and then come up, squeeze, maintaining that arch as much as possible throughout the whole movement. So squeeze. Inhale down, rotate to the opposite leg. Opposite leg is now in the front, rotate. Inhale, rotate, rotate. If you rotate to the opposite side, this leg is gonna cave in because your body doesn't rotate to the side with the leg in front. It rotates to the leg it doesn't rotate to the leg in the back, it rotates to the leg in the front. So that's why you do the run and then this leg comes up. Go down, come up. So I hope that helps. That's all of the exercises that I want to share with you guys. I hope this video was of value to you. If it was, make sure you hit the like button. Comment down below if you have any questions or if this has helped you. I promise you this is probably going to be the most extensive video you'll find online. It'll be the most effective one as well because I've done a ton of work, ton of research on trying to figure this out. So without further ado, let's do a quick recap and call it a day, all right? So overpronation, a lot of this is caused by having flat feet from the get-go, wearing shoes, too much shoes. And a lot of the dangers that it could be is it runs up your connected chain, and the truth behind it, whether or not you can fix it, is you can maintain it, not cure it 100%, but you can get pretty close to waking it up depending on how long you have this issue. And then the fix of all those exercises I've shared with you is what you can do to maintain it and lift your arches up as much as possible, guys. It's Kevin with Optimized Essentials. I hope you enjoyed that. Have a wonderful day. Peace.